Vielen Dank, lieber Franz, Bundeskanzler, Kommissare. I was actually asked to make a language cut now, so that is my task. Thanks for that. Sounds a bit strange, maybe, being from not far away from here, from Vorarlberg, and coming back to Frau Landeshauptfrau. She said in her greeting speech in the beginning that Salzburg is the most beautiful county region in Austria. As a Vorarlberg, please, we should discuss that a little bit, maybe later on. But what is pretty obvious, actually, when it comes to Salzburg, that there is no better city, I would say, than Salzburg to talk about Europe and European unity also. Salzburg has played a very important role in European history altogether, serving a little bit as a bridge, I would say, between cultures and also as a symbol of unity within the European Union and within Europe altogether. And this city actually reminds us of an important truth about Europe's history also. Whenever we are divided, there is war, there is poverty, there is suffering also, and Europe grows weaker. But when we are united, we have progress, we have fresh hope, we have more energy, and Europe grows stronger. So that's what Salzburg also stands for. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we need this moment of unity, I would say, right now. Very challenging times, and even in the last 30 years, as Wolfgang Schüssel has referred to, we have experienced actually time and over again that we live in a world where nothing can be taken for granted also. And as we see it these days, we are being threatened in the East. We have to rethink our relationship in the West, not giving it up, of course, totally agree, but we have to rethink it in a sort of way. And it's the European Union actually that must be the anchor, our anchor for this unity. And as we heard before in the discussion, the European Union is not only the largest area of free movement, it's also a trading power in the world. 450 million people living in Europe, 350 million in the United States. So we have to be a bit more self-confident also when it comes to our positioning. And we are the largest investor abroad also. So we see there are a lot of advantages of the European Union. And I do not mention this to say that we can rest on what we achieved and rest on our achievements, quite the contrary, actually. I say this because we can rightfully be proud of what we have achieved, and we should look into the future with a bit more self-confidence also. And that was said before as well, we have to keep this European project going and growing, I would say. Always rethink what we were doing, what we have to do in the future also. And we must do our homework, definitely. Nothing is perfect. We have got internal barriers when it comes to the internal market. Internal barriers in the single markets are comparable to tariffs of about 45% on goods, and for services it would be more than 100% of the equivalent of tariffs. So that's just not acceptable. So we need to do more. We need to further develop our single market, just to give you an example. And even this means also setting aside maybe sometimes particular national interests in favor of a stronger union. Let us, for instance, complete the Savings and Investments Union. We have been discussing that on a finance minister level for the last, I would say, 20 years or even more. And what member states usually do, we concentrate where the regulator has to sit, be it Frankfurt or being Paris. But we have to concentrate more on substance, I would say. And then also getting rid of dependencies. Wolfgang Schüssel said that before. Getting rid of dependencies is really important, be it gas supply, for instance, like Austria had in the last years, being technology, being China dependency. So we should definitely and have to get rid of that. And I think we also need to strengthen our international ties. We are in a unique position in Europe today, while other countries are becoming less reliable or less predictable, also with sometimes erratic policies, as we see sometimes. Many in the world are actually turning towards us, and we should take that opportunity and possibility and actually use this momentum also to focus on the bigger picture. And that is why we are proposing these new free trade agreements like Mercosur, like Mexico, India, Indonesia. Those regions are coming closer and closer towards the European Union, which is a good sign. We might be sometimes a bit slow, but we are trustworthy, we are reliable. The UK, for instance, is coming closer. They won't join the European Union next year, but they want to get more engaged with us in the European Union, and that's a good sign altogether. So in the face of the new challenges, I think we must do what the lessons of history also tells us quite clearly. Europe must unite and face these issues all together. And this is also very true when it comes to security. We heard that before in the discussion as well, and Chancellor Vranitzky mentioned that in his speech. I remember very well back when I was working as a trainee for the Committee of the Regions about 100 years ago, I would say, we were facing sort of the golden age of multilateralism in the 2000s, year of 2000s. But with the new area of this geostrategic competition we have today, we must work on a sort of new vision, I would say, for the future of the European Union, because security is a starting point from which all of other freedoms derive, being prosperity, being freedom, democracy, the rule of law also. There's no prosperity without security, there's no freedom without security, and there is no democracy without security. And that is why we, as a Commission, we're really focusing on the topic of security. Defense on the one side, white paper of defense, very important in this new area, the preparedness strategy, and also the internal security strategy, our Protect EU project. And with that, we are developing, or try to develop at least, a new mindset. Security has to play an important role in all different files, in all different portfolios, and we have to include security in everything we do. And as we have seen, security can be used, or anything can be used as a weapon also against the European Union if we have weaknesses. Gas supply was mentioned, disinformation, as we saw in the elections just yesterday. Fortunately, it turned out very well at the end of the day. Critical infrastructure, even migration is being turned as a weapon against the European Union. This weaponization of migrants is also something we see in these days. And I think together we must address these issues, and we do that, and we try to do that in this internal security strategy. When it comes to democracy also, and also way of life in the European Union, I think not a lot of challenges are more at the heart of the people than migration. And just a few sentences on that, because it's my sort of key portfolio also. The management of migration. We took, as a European Union, a lot of responsibility 10 years ago when we had the big crisis. But we didn't have a regime, we didn't have a system, we didn't have control over what is happening. And that's what we have to get back. With our pact on asylum and migration, we exactly try to do that. Give the people the feeling back that we have control over what is happening within the European Union. It has to be us to decide who comes into the European Union and not the smugglers or the human traffickers. That is the task we have as a European Union, and I think this new reform on migration and asylum is really important. It's all about implementing this pact now in the next months to come. That is quite crucial, and it's crucial, I think, to get control back over what is happening, because only if we have control we can work on legal pathways, we can work on legal possibilities to come into the European Union, which we desperately need for our labor markets in the years to come. always, and that's sort of the core of our approach as a European Union, always ensuring, of course, humanitarian protection for those in need. That is not a contradiction, it's the other way around actually. Of course, ensuring humanitarian protection is important, but only if we have control over what is happening, we can ensure humanitarian protection and, as I said before, legal pathways. And we have, I think, to make this migration policy also a bit more European. A more European approach would be good. In some cases, this means also increased solidarity between member states within the European Union, and that is what we are doing under the Pact for Migration and Asylum. And in other cases, it means also building a European system for handling returns, sticking to migration for another couple of seconds. When people have been asked to leave the European Union, of course they have to leave the European Union. So far we had the situation that only 1 out of 5 who had a negative asylum decision actually had to leave or left the European Union, and that is also, I would say, not acceptable for the people in Europe, and I totally understand that. So as a next step, that is all about bringing our European house in order, and as a next step, we have to look at the external dimension, migration diplomacy, as I like to call it in a way, getting engaged with third countries outside the European Union because we need them as partners. I'm always criticized because we talk to Libya, for instance. Yeah, it's not very sort of pleasant to talk to the Libyans, to be very honest, but there's no option. We have to get engaged with third countries in order to find solutions at the end of the day. That's what I mean with migration policy, diplomacy, and putting migration on the table whenever we talk about agreements, whenever we negotiate agreements with third countries. I think that this is really important, and put our weight that we have as a European Union on the table, being development policy, being visa policy, very important to put that on the table and have some leverage possibilities when it comes to these negotiations with third country. So to conclude and to come back to the question of this dialogue and the topic of this dialogue, which I have to answer with a clear and strong yes, as long as we stand united, there is certainly and definitely hope for the European Union. We have to work on it. We have to deliver also, of course, and keep the European Union going and growing, always do our homework and do the best for the European citizens. Long live Europe. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thanks for giving us hope. I'm the moderator. My name is Ultsch. I'm Deputy Editor-in-Chief of the newspaper Die Presse, and I will lead you through the hour which is left now. So we're a little bit tight on the time schedule, but let me allow me one remark. So the question is there still hope for Europe? And I think, of course, there is hope. So all the young people there, never think that there is no hope, because then you could capitulate and simply give up. So please let me ask Claudia Plakolm to enter the stage. She will hold a speech about the relationship between Europe and Austria. She's Minister for European Affairs and for Integration and Family. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear President Schausberger, dear Chancellor Schüssel, dear Governor Caroline Edstadler, dear Commissioner Brunner and Hahn, distinguished guests, especially distinguished young guests and pupils from all over Austria, hopefully as well from all over Europe, but especially from the heart of Europe, here in Salzburg. It is a pleasure for me to be here in Salzburg today, especially when normally we will meet in conference rooms, and A setting like this gives the opportunity to kind of change the view, to discuss, and also to be critical about the progress of the European Union, and I think that's very important in times like these. I became Minister of European Affairs in March this year, after my predecessor, the Governor Caroline Edstadler, and it is a very special year to become Minister for European Affairs in Austria, because 2025 marks the anniversary, the 30 years anniversary of our European Union membership in Austria. In 1995, exactly 3 weeks after I was born, Austria made a clear decision. A decision for peace, for freedom, and for strong cooperation as a member of the European Union. And we celebrate this anniversary, this birthday, together with Sweden and Finland. As a Minister for European Affairs, let me briefly take this anniversary as an opportunity to reflect on the many achievements the membership to the European Union led to. First and foremost, the European Union is a driver for peace, and it continues to uphold that mission, especially in times like these, in times where the geopolitical tensions are getting more and more. This role is more relevant than ever. Secondly, the European Union has also led Austria to the world's largest single market. We also heard it from Commissioner Brunner. 450 EU citizens live within the European Union. All of them are customers we can reach, and we moved 30 years ago to the heart of Europe, and our GDP tripled almost during those 3 decades. And thirdly, contrary to the accusation that the European Union is way too far away from the people, we feel the benefits of our membership almost every day. Being an EU member has opened up opportunities for our citizens to live, study, work, and even retire abroad within the European Union, and this is a freedom that we often overlook, but it is invaluable to younger generations who have grown up as Europeans, including myself. All of these and so many more achievements have become a natural part of our lives. But however, we shall not make the mistake of taking these benefits for granted. Looking into the future, the next 30 years, we must be honest with each other. Europe isn't perfect, and it's currently facing many challenges, especially geopolitically. Now more than ever, Europe needs to take its future into its own hands. We need to step up and defend Europe, defend the European Union, and especially defend our common values. Sometimes I have the impression that we too often get lost in overregulation and bureaucracy instead of focusing on the big picture, on the bigger picture even. I stand for a Europe of the big picture, one that creates smart frameworks for our citizens, for our businesses, and for our regions, the freedom they need. Less bureaucracy, more efficiency, and a focus on the issues that really matter and that truly shape our future. And let me be very clear. I firmly believe in the European idea and that a stronger Europe is the future and the way we have to go. But we all know that there are people that get frustrated with certain developments, just to mention some of them, maybe bottle caps. And when people get frustrated with an idea, with a development, they are maybe even turning away from it, and we will all lose what generations of decision makers built before us. We need a strong, capable, and a subsidiarity-based European Union, a union that protects its citizens, creates prosperity, and acts more than ever as a strong global player. I can personally relate to some criticism we are hearing. Whenever I'm returning to my home region of Upper Austria, I hear the same concerns again and again. Excessive reporting obligations, they cost time, they tie up resources we need for innovation. And these concerns must be taken seriously, and we must do everything to become more competitive, as Europe, especially as European Union. And firstly, we need to bring back industry to Europe. Innovation has to grow here, not elsewhere. Secondly, we have to cut red tape. Europe has sent innovation most of the time, or especially the last few years, to the United States, production to Asia, and we only kept regulation on the European continent. And thirdly, we must find the right balance between competitiveness and climate goals. A smart balance between national and even regional responsibility is crucial to become more decisive as a European Union and to become a stronger European Union that is not led by centralization. Austria has always been clear, Europe should focus on the big picture, where the European perspective has a clear benefit. And this benefit we need when it comes to competitiveness, when it comes to security and defense, and when it comes to migration. Commissioner Brunner said already something about that. Those things are definitely the cornerstones of European added value. Let's unlock the potential of the European markets. A solid, strong, and resilient economic basis is also the foundation for security, prosperity, and self-confidence when it comes to our European future. And when we talk about our future, we must also talk about the enlargement policy of the European Union. The Western Balkans remain a priority for Austria's European policy. Just a few weeks ago, our Federal Chancellor, Christian Stocker, visited Montenegro and Serbia to underline our commitment as Austrian politicians to support the European path of the 6 countries of the Western Balkans. And in early October, in a few weeks, I will travel myself 6 countries, 6 days to the candidate countries of the Western Balkans. It is important not to lose sight of the region and to maintain the momentum of enlargement. Integration of the Western Balkans is not only just a matter of credibility of the European Union or fairness, it is also crucial when it comes to our security and to the stability of the European Union and to Europe as a continent. Gradual integration is therefore the right step to see tangible progress for the people, especially the younger generations living in the Western Balkans. They must feel the advantages, and we have to strengthen the pro-European forces on the ground. And I would like to mention finally as well yesterday's elections in Moldova. The pro-European forces won the parliamentary elections, and this is a clear commitment by the country to follow the European path, to follow the path towards the European Union. Moldova must now continue on this path and implement the necessary reforms as soon as possible. And I want to be clear as well, the situation is different than it is in Ukraine. So naturally, in my view, also Moldova's fate must not be 100% linked to the Ukraine. If Moldova achieves tangible results in its reform path, this must also yield tangible results at a European level. And in any case, enlargement must remain a merit-based process, applying the same rules to all candidate countries, and the Western Balkans have been waiting for too long. They have been waiting for more than 2 decades now to see progress in their integration to Europe, in their European perspective. It is high time to live up with our promises as well from a European side, not just when it comes to the reforms in the candidate countries. And this will, of course, be one of the central themes of the discussion here on that stage. And I'm looking forward to discuss with you. Thank you once again for also showing with this summit how crucial it is that Austria takes part when it comes to decisions of the future of Europe, and that we are showing as well that we support the European integration of the Western Balkans on that view as well. Thank you very much, President Schausberger.
Hello. Hi. Well, thank you, Minister Plakolm. Please take a seat. Sounds like an exhausting program, 6 countries in 6 days. So Let me please ask Josip Brkić and Mr. Hasani to the stage. We're going to talk now about the integration of the Western Balkan states. And while you enter the stage, let me shortly introduce you. So this gentleman here is Igli Hasani. Please give a warm welcome. Mr. Hasani was a foreign minister of Albania until recently, and right now he's chairman of the Parliamentary Committee for Foreign Affairs. Please a warm welcome also for Josip Brkić. He's deputy minister in Bosnia and Herzegovina, so we are very happy that you're here. So time is a little bit tight, but I have bad news and good news in a way. I mean, the bad news is that the finance minister of Romania, Mr. Nasare, unfortunately cannot attend this meeting. He has business to do, has to restructure his budget, and he has to attend a government meeting. So unfortunately, he will not be here. Later on, there will definitely be a video conference with the Deputy Minister of Ukraine. So we still got time for that. Let me begin with you, Mr. Hasani. I mean, in June, I looked it up, it was really in June 2003, when I still resembled somehow a young man, that the European Union promised to integrate the Western Balkan states. Well, so far, only Croatia has been integrated. The negotiations with Albania have started in 2020. You sped up things until recently, but in the end, I wonder, why did this all take so long? And was the European Union, in a way, pretending that it wanted to have the Western Balkan states inside of the European Union, and have the Western Balkan states, in a way, pretended and simulated reforms for so long? So why you're not already in the European Union? I mean, Albania.
Because I think both sides were not ready. Both the European Union and the countries from Southeast Europe were simply not ready. And I have a difficulty to call what is called the Western Balkans, because we are Southeast Europe. I've been struggling with many Bulgarian foreign ministers in all my tenure as a foreign minister to go and visit this famous, infamous mountain Balkan that has branded us for all our lives. I remember myself being a very young student, always from the Balkans, and you know how bad being from the Balkans and the Western Balkans used to be, and that perspective it has started to change. The issue is reaching the European Union is not only a romantic platform and an idealization of the future of us, but it's also based on some homeworks that we, future members, candidate countries, have to do. And those reforms that have brought the perspectives of us towards the Union, in the case of Albania, are being mirrored very quickly. In the last 12 months, we have opened 28 out of 33 chapters, and we will open in the next few weeks the remaining 5. This is an exercise that Albania and the Albanians, the Albanian society, the Albanian politicians, the Albanian political parties, we are doing it first and foremost for ourselves, for our families.
I'll come back to you later. Mr. Brkić, I mean, Bosnia and Herzegovina and the European Union is a case in point, in a way. Recently, 2024, the European Commission recommended negotiations, but still things have stretched out. To which degree is Mr. Milorad Dodik, the president of the Republika Srpska, managing to block the whole process until now?
At the very beginning, thank you very much for inviting me and having me here. And yes, 24 was the year when the European Council decided to grant the or to open negotiations, but still the technical negotiations didn't start. This is, and we have to, thank for the group of the friends within the European Council, where Austria is really a leading couple of countries who believe in the enlargement and who believe in the Europe in, as my friend precisely said, in Southeast Europe, because all of us in the countries who live there are equally Europeans by cultural, historical, social, religious background. We are not just part of the political Europe that we want to close this bridge. But the suffering of the Ukrainian people and continued Russian aggression to Ukraine actually put a spotlight on the enlargement again. I am 11 years Deputy Foreign Minister of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I remember that talking about the enlargement was not that much of importance, even in the European institutions. Our dear friend and Commissioner for the Enlargement, Johannes Hahn, did not have an easy task when the President of his Commission, where he was serving, said, no enlargement during my mandate. So he was the one who was, bearing the torch and still keeping the dialogue in the Europe on the enlargement issue. And as I said, Austria, together with a couple of other countries, Slovenia, Croatia, of course, Italy, supporting a lot this issue. The reasons why we are not there yet are of internal and the external, as colleagues have said. Equally, for the non-readiness of the European Union for the absorption capacity, which is the other word of giving the seat in the Council for the candidate country and then to vote on the already existing system. So it means it's entirely on the EU how to do it. And then on the other side, of course, for the candidate countries, including Bosnia and Herzegovina, including irresponsible politicians within my country who are putting the petty daily political benefits in front of the what should be the strategic path of the entire society. We have all celebrated, and everyone was congratulating, including Minister, the results of the yesterday's election in Moldova. Does anyone in this room believe that the result would be the same without very strong, committed, and I would say eager push of the European Union in this country that, showed at the end of the day the commitment towards the European Union by the political vote. Equally, we need this in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Equally, we need this political, financial, and every other commitment in other countries who are the candidates in the Southeast Europe.
Thank you. Minister Plakolm, yeah, please. Well, in your speech, you have reiterated Austria's commitment to integrate in the southeastern countries.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. But, well, we have a lot of young listeners here. What's in it for Austria? Why is Austria supporting this process?
Well, first of all, because we have very close ties over centuries, actually, when it comes to our common history, a common culture, and as well that Austrian citizens and especially Austrian entrepreneurs are already supporting the European enlargement to the southeastern part of Europe. I think we have to rename the friendship group because it's called Friends of the Western Balkan, but it's something, a task for me to do. I think it's very important, especially from an Austrian perspective and from an Austrian view, to also underline the benefits that come with the enlargement policy. We know the recent survey, Eurobarometer survey, that shows that the skepticism of enlargement policy of the European Union is especially high within Austrian citizens. And therefore we have to get better on our EU communication. We have to improve that, to see the benefits of enlargement policy, the benefits for Austrian companies that are already working within the countries in the southeast region of Europe, within the Western Balkans, and to see the benefits that comes from a stronger and united Europe. We need that now more than ever, especially when there are geopolitical turbulences and when there is war getting closer and closer to our borders, to the borders of the European Union. If we don't fulfill our promises from the European point of view, then others will do. Others will take the vacuum, will take the place, and we don't want the influence of Russia or China getting more and more on European ground.
Well, thank you. Well, you've mentioned it. I mean, in the end, all of you. I mean, it seems that after the Russian invasion in Ukraine, it has become a geopolitical imperative to speed up the integration, and obviously it has gained some momentum. Mr. Hasani, could you please tell us? You've touched upon it in your first remark. Where do you yourself see the biggest challenges inside your country, inside Albania, to join the European Union?
Well, let me start replying you by saying that the European Union is the only entity today that is trying to expand itself peacefully. And there are countries that are willing, with their free mind and subject, to join it. We see the Russian Federation invading countries. We see others that are trying to expand their territories in a different way.
European Union is definitely nicer approach.
Except of the European Union that is helping us, not only being part of the bigger market that used to be the concept, the naive concept up until a few years ago, but also as being part of an infrastructure of human rights, fundamental freedoms, and free market economy. These are the things that in my country we have been trying to develop in the last 3 and something decades to make our citizens trust into the systems, into the courts, into the free market economy. And as my Prime Minister says, after independence, that came thanks to Austria, by the way, the biggest reform that we have had was in the justice and in the justice system. 10, 12 years ago, the judges and prosecutors were considered the most corrupt part of our society. Now it's the other way around, because thanks to the European Union, we have started to strengthen our institutions. This is what I think is the most vital thing for all the candidate countries. Is not only being part of some international aid that is coming from Brussels or from Vienna, the capital of the Balkans.
Well, I get you. Please, I get your point. I mean, there have been attempts to reform the judiciary system. Nevertheless, it's also obvious that there are still problems with corruption. There are still problems also with media freedom. I mean, if I get it wrong, Albania climbed up the ladder from being number 99 or something in the International Press Freedom Index, and now it's 80. Well, to me, it seems there's still a lot of work to be done, right?
Absolutely, and this is what is needed. We are never happy with what we're doing. We're trying to improve and improve and improve, without forgetting where we are and without forgetting that we don't see ourselves as a unique part of the region. We see ourselves as a good mechanism that should bring the entire 6 countries of the Western Balkans at least as soon as possible to the European Union. And this is what brings the many perspectives faster and in good possibilities. We come with Josip from a region that in the 90s we went through lots of difficulties, wars, ethnic cleansings, genocide. We saw those issues disappearing from our region in the early 2000s, but with the start of the war, with the war of aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine. We saw those elements there, and we saw those elements being mirrored back again to our region. And this is something that we should not lose focus.
Thank you. Mr. Brkić, you want to add something?
Yeah, this is precisely that we always have to have in mind. It should be taken within the context. This year you're celebrating entering into the European Union 30 years, and we are marking 30 years of Dayton-Paris Agreement, meaning the stop of the war. So we just take those last 30 years as a starting point for Austria and for Bosnia and Herzegovina, we would see what's the discrepancy. The reason why we should, accelerate the integration, because once again, we are the Europe. It's not the enlargement, it's the integration of this part of the Europe would be, better for everyone. Imperfect as it is, European Union, with everything which is there as a challenging, for us, by far, this is the best entity that where we can close all things which are among the countries and people who are, in the Southeast Europe. So I believe that this generational task that you rightly pointed out started 2003, 22 years ago, with one exception, Croatia entering into the European Union 12 years ago, needs to have palpable integrational cases from the countries, of course, in Southeast Europe, with all of our support for the European future of Moldova and Ukraine.
Mr. Brkić, let me ask you, the former High Representative for Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mr. Wolfgang Petrić, recently said that this office of the High Representative should be scrapped. Do you think that's...
I agree with him.
So, and what would be the alternative? So how would things go on?
Precisely the European path and the reforms that needs to be done is a recipe, a medicine to take out or phase out Office of the High Representative from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and of course in heavy international presence in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm going to remind you that, for example, out of 3 constitutional court judges are coming from the foreign country in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So in order to grasp the full integrity, we have to work inside of Bosnia and Herzegovina on the European path. That's what I said, stronger commitment of the European Union Commission and others, and this could be, this could be the way out.
So I've asked you before, how should the Dodik problem be solved? I mean, he was somehow, he should resign from his office, so there was a decision by a court. Nevertheless, he wants to stay as a president. He wants to hold a referendum in the next weeks. So how is that playing into...
Everything what was challenging to Bosnia and Herzegovina in the past year just proven that state institutions, the Court of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Prosecutor Office of Bosnia and Herzegovina, State Intelligence Protection Agency came out as the winners in this duel with Mr. Dodik. At the end of the day, his party today also took a decision to participate into the early elections of the for the President of Republika Srpska, meaning respecting the decision of the court and the state institutions. And this is only proving that the institutions in Bosnia and Herzegovina are stronger than any individual. Challenges, which whatever strong individual can pose, should be addressed through the strong institutions and not to have individual who is above the law. Precisely what Igli was saying, what are the benefits of our societies, what we are learning in terms of implementing the values of rule of law throughout the region.
Well, not only the candidate countries, Mrs. Minister Plakolm, but also the European Union has to get its act together. Can the European Union stay like it is before enlargement, or does it have to reform? Does it have to change the rules also of decision making, as former Chancellor Vranitzky mentioned in his video remarks? Do there have to be more majority decisions?
I think first of all it is important that the European Union focuses on the promises made before it makes new promises when it comes to enlargement policy. And we have countries waiting for a European perspective for more than 20 years now. And I think that's very frustrating, especially for young people. You know that better than me, young people living in the Western Balkans, Southeast Europe, sorry, I'm learning. In Southeast Europe, I think that's frustrating when you hear from your childhood on that someday you are going to be a member of the European Union, that someday you can study anywhere abroad within the European Union, and you don't see, or you see less progress on this question. And that's why it is so important from the European perspective that we focus on the merit-based approach. And reforms and the will to fulfill reforms must come from the country itself. I support it. But we also have to strengthen the pro-European forces within the candidate countries, because, like I said before, if we don't do it, others will fill the vacuum on that. And I think it is crucial for us to also speak with one voice, with one strong voice when it comes to the candidate countries, even though it is difficult. But I think, well, we know that there are many times the bilateral relations when one country is skeptical.
No.
We have to convince the skeptical, and therefore the countries of Southeast Europe have to support us as strong supporters for their candidate process.
Well, I get your point, but the question was, if there are more members inside the European Union, do we have to change that, sitting more members on the table? So this won't make decision-making easier. So do we have to change that? Do we have to change the rules?
I think the motto of the European Union is united in diversity, and we have to be united when it comes to the question of enlargement policy, especially. When it comes to the concrete process, if there are questions in between, opening a cluster, opening a chapter, we can discuss about that. But I think, especially in a small country like Austria, we have to think a lot about the question of majorities when it comes to decisions on a European level. But nevertheless, we have to see the progress on both sides. And talking about Bosnia before, when someone undermines the structures of a state, we cannot just watch and we can never tolerate that.
All right. Well, I don't know whether Mr. Taras Kachka, Deputy Prime Minister for European Affairs in Ukraine, is already in the line. Maybe somebody could give me some sign. But nevertheless, I want to enter a last round before we get to him, and I would like to do something a journalist should never do, putting more than one question into one question. So I would hear from all of you first. When do you think your countries will enter the European Union? Point two: is there something like a enlargement fatigue, the kind of Mrs. Plakolm has mentioned, or is this rather an elite phenomenon and not a phenomenon by the population? And last but not least, just give us a small insight about how the influence of other geopolitical powers like Russia and China and even Turkey is playing out in your region. So, and keep it short and snappy. So that's the challenge. Well, if you could answer those three questions.
When we have so many dates that we're mentioning in this my past 11 years, so 2025 was mentioned. Last time was also mentioned 2030. That European Union, this absorption capacity, this voting, as you said, and the candidate countries should be ready. I believe that this could be the date. Fatigue. we need palpable results because generations are growing up in the waiting room. And we have to have in mind always that the name of the game is full membership. Today, we don't have to change a single comma in the treaties of the European Union to enlarge. It's just the political will from the Council to do it. That's the question. Is there a political will to take this generational task? 70% of the citizens in Bosnia and Herzegovina, of all Bosniak, Serbs, Croats, supporting this. 94% of our trade is with the European Union and the rest of the countries of the region of Southeast Europe. And yes, third countries, third regions, and third ideologies are already, not only in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but region-wide, from the political, economical, or ideological reasons. And I put, full stop there, fully agreeing with the minister, knowing that in politics there's no vacuum. If the values of the European Union don't deeply enroot in the Southeast Europe, someone else is going to take the advantage.
Mr. Hasani, when do you expect Albania to join? Is there some sort of a fatigue? And what's your take on growing influence of other forces?
I mean, Albania has a clear plan with the Commission that we will close the technical negotiations by the end of 2027. And at the beginning of 2028, we will start the political negotiations with the member states in order to fulfill what has been said so many times and what Josip was mentioning, to join the Union by 2030. This might sound highly optimistic, but at the same time, we are doing a fantastic job in realistic terms. Not only having excellent friends, many of them in this hall, starting with Chancellor Schüssel, Chancellor Schausberger, but also with Commissioner Hahn, Foreign Minister Ferrero-Waldner, Governor Edstadler, but also my friend Claudia Plakolm. This is evident, and we are doing the utmost to be as fast as possible using technology, using the AI. We were fortunate enough to have also the inventor of ChatGPT, an Albanian national, that has helped us creating a program that will bring the necessary legislation as soon as possible, as close as possible to that of the European Union. Instead of having human eyes and hands, we will have only human eyes and hands to check it through. Fatigue. 92% of the Albanians believe that we should be there. We should unify ourselves with the European Union. We left the European family 555 years ago. 500 years of Ottoman presence, 50 years of Stalinism, and 5 years of very difficult transition in the early 90s, have not diluted the dream of the Albanians to be part of this family. That's why the polls, when it comes to the Eurobarometer, show that we are up to 92%. And of course, we are not immune to what is coming from the East. Everything that is coming from the East is anti-democratic, against the rule of law, and against the free market economies. We are living in a clash of democracies with democrators. Therefore, being members of this family of the European Union will help us, as I said at the beginning, improve ourselves, deliver better for our people, and be a normal member of a normal family.
Thank you. Mrs. Pratt, you get the famous last words.
Yes, I will answer your 3 questions very briefly. First of all, hopefully within the next 5 years, we will welcome new member states to the European Union. I already heard the motto, 28th member country by 2028. Maybe that could be a goal. Secondly, the enlargement fatigue. I think it is important also to see the best practice examples, to see the front runners in this process, also as encouraging examples for younger generations in Southeast Europe, when it comes to Albania, especially when it comes to Montenegro. I think that's very encouraging. Okay. And the third thing you asked about the influence. in our countries. From an Austrian view, we have also a problem with that, and we have to deal with that, especially when it comes to social media, the influence on political debates, especially of Russian forces. We have to deal with that, and we have to face that problem as well within the European Union.
Thanks a lot. Please give a hand to the participants.
Well done. Thank you so much.
Our next guest is already... wait, yes, please. I think it's more comfortable downstairs, right? Oh, yes. You can also stay if you want to. Well, our next guest should be on the line right now via video conference. His name is Taras Kachka, born in 1979. So he's Deputy Prime Minister for European and Euro-Atlantic integration since 2005. And from 2019 on, he served as a trade representative of Ukraine. So, I just get out of the way a little bit. Mr. Kachka, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I follow the interesting debate as well you had before. So I hope I don't see that how you see me, and I hope I'm not like dominating the.
We see you big time on the screen right now. That's good. Well, before I want to turn to questions about EU enlargement, let me ask you what it is like to live under the constant threats of Russian aggression, of Russian attacks. What was it like in the last 48 hours in Kiev?
Yeah, so thank you. Indeed, this is something you cannot get used to, so that when you hear the interception of drones or the explosion of missiles in the night near your windows, it is never safe. And when you spend half of your night in the shelter in your building or in subway station, it is not safe. But what is the most shocking is that it is not only Kyiv, it is all around the nation, and especially for frontline cities like Zaporizhia and Kharkiv, who have more than 1 million inhabitants, and now they are very close to the front line. They suffer not only from drones and missiles, but also from classical artillery and bombs from Russia. And every time we have human victims in Kiev, like 2 nights ago in Kiev, so at least 4 people have been killed, including a 12-year-old girl, and some of them have been killed in medical institutions, which was destroyed. So that this is unfortunately routine news from Ukraine. But at the same time, you see that we successfully defend us, so that Russia is not occupying a lot of territory. So of course they prefer to let's say literally to take some meters of our territory by blood and meat of Russian soldiers, and this is very barbaric use of their own resources. But generally we are successfully defending, but it doesn't mean that we are very safe, so that this is also a challenge, because Russia is increasing the number of missiles and drones and try to overcome our defense by numbers. So that's why we also need to increase our defense with more armaments. Yeah.
It's a little bit hard to interrupt you, so I also want to be polite. But please tell us, how difficult is it to negotiate membership inside the European Union during a war? I mean, vast amount of resources go to defense capabilities in Ukraine. I mean, also the economy, of course, is somehow on a war footing. So if you could give us some insight.
Thank you. First and foremost, please interrupt me as it's comfortable for you. You are moderator, so that you actually responsible for time. And your question is absolutely like perfect, because for us it is difficult, but in terms of complexity of the question, we really rely on the EU institutions and member states and their support to Ukraine in our daily needs here and now, and the EU is one of the biggest supporters of macro-financial stability in Ukraine, and we rely on this support. We have a lot of political support as well, and the accession to the EU is also part of our own, let's say, political and social defense against Russia, because it's like we see our path to the European Union as a path to our partners and to our family and integration with those who are our friends. And at the same time, we are designing this accession together with the daily needs of developing this future world. So it means that we have a very rich agenda on cooperation with the European Union, on also industrial and defense cooperation. This is something what is evolving and changing in the European Union, because Russia is definitely wants to continue its aggression. It's testing Europe with drones everywhere, so that's sending drones and flights to Baltic states, to Poland, and these provocations is just a signal they want to expand their aggression. So that's why we evolved together with the European Union. We try to share what we can do. So this is a mix of things, and you see that in my response that I jump from one topic to another. So that's why our portfolio of dialogue, and the file of dialogue with the EU is very unique, extremely complex, but for last 3 years, it evolved in very coordinated and consolidated big project that will reinforce both Ukraine and the European Union in our needs and in our needs to defend ourselves and promote our future. There were a lot of words presented by previous speakers about the future of the European Union. And in Ukraine, in frontline, this future is also defended, because it is definitely something new for Europe, the classical massive total war against Ukraine, and this continuously increasing threats against the European Union. So that's why I think that the EU-Ukraine dialogue or project on enlargement and everything else should be considered in its entirety, and from perspective of mutual support and mutual investment into our bright future.
I see that there is a lot of support for Ukraine in Brussels, but I also see that there is a lot of skepticism among the population, and also, of course, among single member states. So if you have to confront this skepticism, what's two questions in one. Why does Ukraine want to become a member, and what is the European gain from a Ukrainian membership?
Yeah, thank you. I think that that Ukraine is biggest candidate state, so that de jure it might be Turkey, but de facto with tempo of enlargement process, Ukraine is biggest one. It is most complicated in this moment because we are under aggression of Russian Federation, and we spent a lot of our efforts on war and on defending us from Russian aggression and counteracting the Russian destruction. But I think that Ukraine is a solution for majority of challenges of the European Union. This is a topic that a lot of people, especially those who are skeptical, treat like something not serious. But let's take this as serious as possible. Ukraine now is developing the best defense capacities. It tests new technologies, new ways of defending ourselves, and that it is useful for Europe, and it is already like recognized that it is useful for Europe and for future of Europe, because Russian aggression will not cease to exist for many years while Putin is governing. He definitely behaves like a Hitler in terms of war. Yeah. So that's one thing. And even if there will be peace in Ukraine, so Ukrainian army and defense capacity will be necessary to ensure this, let's say, deterring Russia from Europe. Next big thing is also the human resources, engineer thinking, industrial development. There are a lot of talks about the strategic autonomy of Europe. Ukraine is the best way to ensure the strategic autonomy, with having a possibility to ensure that supply chains with different spare parts, everything what is needed for economic engine of the European Union is produced in Europe, with Ukraine in the European Union. Even the very sensitive topic of agriculture is also a key for successful future, because Ukraine is a feeding base for European animal farming, and you know that it is not a joke that
but those are the issues, Mr. Kachka. Sorry to interrupt you, but those are the issues why many Europeans exactly are skeptical, because of this huge agriculture market, and also maybe simply do not want to be dragged into a war against Russia.
Yes, so that's why our message, political message, is that we are not trying to actually shift our problems on the European Union. No, never on no problems. We are modernizing our agriculture, and it is developed in line with EU rules, and we are proving this daily. So we are very accurate in terms of reacting on the concerns of EU farmers. We see that you see that, and all the world see that we are trying to actually bring peace as soon as possible. That's our task, and we are not saying that EU integration is a way of dragging EU into the war. And this is a dialogue with all societies and governments, that what we are doing now, and I think that even with the most skeptical, like Hungarian government, for last 2 months, I met them at least 2 or 3 times with different ministers, and we discussed all the sensitive topics. So that's why it is here. But then, just like to conclude this, I think that the enlargement process, as it is designed, this merit-based negotiating process, is a tool to meet all these concerns. And I think definitely this is a complex project, but it will bring positive results for all those, especially for those who are extremely skeptical now.
Mr. Kachka, I got 3 questions left, so please I ask you for short answers. Ukraine should have opened the negotiations about cluster called fundamentals in spring. It was obstructed by Hungary, and the newly elected president of Poland is also rather skeptical in many ways. Do you expect more obstruction to come from this direction?
I hope that even with Hungarian obstruction, I would not limit this to the formal position of Hungarian government. What is important is that we are discussing all sensitive topics, and we will definitely prepare a good foundation for change of their position, and we have a good discussion on minorities, on everything else, and on integration of our economies, including in energy. That is quite interesting also for Austria and for the region in general, because of modernization of energy. The same with Poland, and same with any other skeptical member states. In our previous experience, we had a lot of discussions with Western European states on being skeptical about Ukraine. But nevertheless, this process, this skepticism, it means that it gives substance for discussion. So that's long discussions as my answers. Yes, so my apologies for that.
Well, in July, President Zelensky tried to kneecap anti-corruption agencies. Well, he reversed course after protests, not only on the streets in Kiev, but also from from Brussels. So I want to ask you directly, what does this tell us, this episode tell us about the state of democracy in Ukraine, and also about the leverage the European Union has?
So that the lesson from this situation is very clear, that we are capable to fix all the mistakes, you know, that democracy always give a chance for mistakes, and that the fact that mistakes have been fixed very fast and is a clear positive sign for all Ukrainian society and international partners. But in terms of what it discovered that definitely for everyone it would be better to have cluster on fundamentals open, because it will definitely help to consolidate the reforms, and the examples of other candidate states also show this. So that's why for us it is important to consolidate this reform both domestically and with our partners. So that's why the opening of Cluster 1 could be the best political support to it, and take into account that it opens the full application of all machinery of planning, controlling, reporting, and implementing all the technical steps that are still needed in our judiciary reform, anti-corruption reform, etc. But as well, this situation shows and indicates that anti-corruption institutions are operating quite well, and they investigated a lot of influential people, and that's why we have a lot of difficult discussions, you know, because those who are under investigations are always try to bounce back. So that's why my task is to ensure that all anti-corruption institutions are working efficiently through this very intense period when we have a number of high-level investigations in Ukraine.
Very last questions. Well, it doesn't seem that there will be, unfortunately, there will not be peace anytime soon in Ukraine. Obviously, US President Trump has failed in his attempt to negotiate, mediate peace. Regarding these circumstances, do you think that Ukraine should reconsider its position about holding elections during wartime?
You know, as indicated in the roadmap on democratic institutions, which is part of Cluster 1 on fundamentals, the issue of elections is related to the security situation that allows to have normal voting for people, because it's about active voting, yes, so it's about millions of people. So that's why we're following, we developed the criteria, we follow an assessment of situation. I think that this issue is in the, let's say, the domestic debate. No one is using martial law and war as a explanation for not holding elections. Otherwise, Ukrainian society dream about the turning back the normal function of democratic institutions as soon as possible, and allow the elections on local level, national level, and the restoration of the normal cycle of it. How the situation will develop depends on many factors. I think that the United States, you called the term failed. I think it's a little bit different, so that I think that the position of the United States evolves, because it appeared that the situation is quite complex. We see that there is a coalition of willing, a lot of states that also work on supporting Ukraine and finding security guarantees and pressuring Russia for faster peace talks and everything else is actually indicating that we all are trying to end war as soon as possible. And of course, the issue of elections is go hands in hands with it, since it is also our dream to back to normal life in political life, in economy, and in everything.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kachka. Thanks for carving out these 20 minutes out of your time schedule.
Thank you, and my apologies for long answers.
All the best. Thank you.